So what I'd like to show you guys here in this video is another file management feature. Um, it's very important for when you start to do more complex assemblies, and I know right now it doesn't seem like it's a big deal, but if you're doing something like a facade system with lots of different hardware and stuff like that, let's just real quick maybe parametric was the wrong term. So you might find that you're kind of modeling at some point lots of really intricate hardware into your models at some point when you get into advanced modeling. But you should be aware that you can group certain things together, and they don't have to be like, you know how obviously you can right click on the layer and select, sorry, not that. You can right click on the layer and you can go to select objects, and it selects everything on that layer. That's one level of document control and management that's really helpful to you. But at the same time, you can take, even if they're not on the same layer, you can take multiple model components and group them together into one group. So it's really simple. The command is just called group. And what that does is it makes the entire object selectable as one object. So all I do is just click once, and I've got it.
So did you make that first step kind of like smaller?
Not yet. Not yet. I will. So you can select them all, group it, and then it becomes easily selectable as one object. And this is where you would begin to move something into place. So we're going to test this thing out. I already know that it's not the right size, but we're going to move it into place and make sure it works. So if I want to start my stair at the the corner right here so that it fits really snugly into the model, what I know is that I want the top tread to slide under the slab, and I want it to meet at the midpoint at the top, like you're seeing up here. This is the midpoint of the stair below. So when I move it into place, I'm already thinking ahead to where it's going to go, and I'm mitigating extra commands by activating the move command and grabbing the midpoint now at the top of the stair. And I do that so that when I go into my model and I click on the corner, it's already 12 inches off from the top of the stair. But this is what we're running into. That's incorrect, right? It's the wrong size. So this will inevitably happen to you throughout your design process. You'll model something, it'll be the wrong size, or you'll just say, no, these stairs are ugly, so I want to make them more steep, or something like that. So we need to go back through the process of editing these stairs and sizing them down. So the way I would do it is probably just delete lots of stairs down to the original one and use my move face command to adjust the size a little bit to what I need, then do a linear array again. So you'll find that once we start getting into more intricate models, what I like to do is group components together into little families like this. And if I need to edit it, I oftentimes will move it out. So because I know where to anchor this, I'm just going to move this thing out by clicking and dragging and pulling it off. My suggestion to you is you very, very rarely ever want to click an object and drag it somewhere else. I used to say never do it, but because there are instances like this where it's just faster to do so when it doesn't matter, by all means go for it, but know when and where. My warning to you is only do that when where you're placing it doesn't matter, which for the most part doesn't happen. Anyway, so right now this is a group, and I can't just edit one of the stairs. So to ungroup it, the command is, again, very simple, ungroup. So after you've ungrouped it, we now want to go back and modify it, and you see that I can just kind of click individual stairs and grab them. I want to take this opportunity to elaborate on the selection procedures here a little bit, because you have many views at your disposal, and this is one of those intuitive things, right? After you use the program for a while, you'll find the fastest way to select one item and delete the rest. But the selection window is a very powerful tool. And let me explain to you, and I didn't introduce this too early, but when you use a selection window, right, you click, you drag, and it creates the little box that selects things. Notice how when you pull left, it's a dashed line. And when you click and drag and pull right, it's a solid line. That means something. When you click and drag left with your selection box, notice how I'm only pulling halfway across those stairs, and it selects anything that it touched. That's when you drag left. Now if I go to the other side of the stair and I click and I drag right, I only go halfway across the stair and release. It doesn't select anything. That's because when you're going left, it'll select anything that the bounding box touches. When you're going right, it'll only select objects that are fully encapsulated in that box. Okay, so that's nifty, because if I very cleverly want to get rid of or select all but the bottom stair, I can select them all and then control click on the bottom one. That's an option. And delete. Or if I want to be really quick about it, I can just do a left to right sweep and not select the bottom stair. Then I don't have to control click it again. So I'm throwing that out there as a workflow option. It's something that you wouldn't think makes your process that much faster, but it really does. I mean, you do that enough times, you'll save a lot of time. So anyway, we're back down to the last stair, and we need to adjust it. So we need to make it smaller. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to modify the dimensions of the stair so that my riser height will be 8 inches. It's actually a little bit too tall. It's taller than code will allow, but we're keeping it simple math so that it makes sense and you guys aren't going all crazy. So 8 inches tall, and we're going to make the tread now 11 inches. So it's going to shorten up the length of the run of stairs so that it fits in our space. So this is our opportunity to use move face. It's really clever. So I'm going to activate the move face command, and looking at its orientation to my model, I'm just going to start pulling it. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. It's all going in the same place. So I'm going to select one of the long faces, and I'm going to move it now in the top view. I'm going to move it down, because if I'm doing 11-inch treads when it used to be 12-inch treads, because these are doubly as long, that means I need to remove 2 inches off of the length of this tread overall. So move face, I hit enter, and I click on the side of the model. I say 2 inches, hold shift, always hold shift, and click. Then height. Yeah, so the height we have to adjust as well, so I can just move face again, select the top face of my stair, go into the front view now, or you could, I'll go into the front view. Oh no, I turned grid snap on, sorry. And make that 2 inches higher. hold shift and click. So this one's going to look a little funky too, because now it's going to be a little bit taller than you're used to seeing proportionally, but it'll fit in our space. So I click the stair now, and I'm going to do an array linear again, right back into the fire with that. So array linear. This time, because my treads are 8 inches tall, you can do some simple math. Window, calculator. So we have 12 inches per foot. We need to clear 10 feet, so 12 times 10 is 120. Divide that by 8, that's your height, so you're going to have 15 risers. So that gives you your count. Simple math. So number of items, I need 15. First reference point, again, same process. Bottom left corner, I move it up to the midpoint. Project needs to be off. And there's my new stair. So at this point, I'm going to group it and move it back into the space the same way I did before. Group, move, grab the top middle point, and drop it onto the inside corner of the stair. And now you can see that it fits much better. Are there any questions?
Can you repeat move face? I got the fact that you have to. Actually, yeah, it's skewing it. So.
Okay, you might not be holding shift. So move face, let me just make a quick box. Move face works like this. If I activate move face and I select one face, right? And then I hit enter and I click somewhere. If I try to move it down like this and I say 2 inches, well, I'll say 2 feet here. So I move it down. And if you don't hold shift, you're probably accidentally twisting it out of plane. That wasn't really extreme enough, but you can see it here.
So I hit the distance that I want it to decrease, and then I hold shift and drag it down.
Holding shift will make sure that it moves in whatever your ortho snap is set to.
Can you explain again how you positioned it up
Yes.
against the slab?
Yes, I will. So I positioned it against the slab by the midpoint of my top tread. Remember, I planned it to go up to a height that was under my slab. So if I grab this and I do move and I select the midpoint, just like this, the rest of the stairs, right? You're connecting the bottom left corner to the midpoint. So the bottom corner of the slab is now going to connect to the midpoint of the tread at the top. So I click at the midpoint, I move it over here, and I place it right there.
How much do you want us to add to the height?
2 inches.
2 inches?
Should be 8 inches tall. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video here then. Come around, make sure you're all caught up to this before I move on to some other more not necessarily document management, but more like modeling navigation features that are going to be even more incredibly helpful for when you're adapting models that are already built.